Back with more Ron and Joe on Sports Radio 93.7 The Fan.
So this was rather unbelievable to watch. It was Steelers still in the game, correct? It's late in the game. They have a fourth down. It's a 4th and 10, I believe. Is that right, Ron? A 4th and 10?
4th and 10, yes.
4th and 10 from the 11-yard line.
From the 11, there's 3:09 to go, and it was after a timeout. Cincinnati had called timeout after the previous play. The previous play was when Ebron couldn't come down with a high throw. So it was after a timeout, no less.
A free timeout for the Steelers. Time to comb through their playbook, which I guess, Bob, is actually a pamphlet. Now that we know what Mike Tomlin said here, one of the most unbelievably ridiculous plays I've ever seen. It rivaled the Bills' backward pass on 4th and 1. They threw it to Najee Harris 6 yards. Go back and look at the play. He caught the ball 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage on 4th and 10 from the other team's 11. And everybody, they started booing, Ron, when he caught the ball. If you go back, I swear to God, go back and listen to the replay. People started booing when he caught the ball.
They were booing all afternoon, but you're right.
It was embarrassing. It was ridiculous, and it was predictable that he got tackled for -1 yard. Ron, if the Bengals had 5 players on the field, he would have gotten stopped. I'm sorry. It was too. How are you going?
4 guys coming right at him as soon as he caught the ball.
I don't care if you fool all 11. They have all the time in the world to recover from the 16-yard line. I can't believe that it happened. I can't believe that they did that.
You know, we're watching it, and I think it was somebody that said, do you think Ben thought it was 3rd down instead of 4th down? It was
Maybe.
No, I mean, he didn't. But I mean,
how do we know for sure?
Well,
it was so ridiculous.
They're coming out of timeout. He had to know.
Do you think Ben was like, "Screw it, I'm going to run Canada's play"? Ben had to know that wasn't going to work.
He said afterwards, in hindsight, I wish I would have thrown it for the end zone.
So Tomlin was asked about it after the game, and this is what he said:
We had fired all our bullets at that juncture. In terms of some of our play selection, man, it just wasn't a good enough play to get in there, and they had obviously a picket fence, if you will, because of situations just like the conversation we were having over here. They're going to allow you to probably throw and catch the ball in front of them, but you got to do some things after that. They had a bunch of guys running along the goal line, like happens when it's 4th and goal from the 8 or 9 or whatever it was.
That's unbelievable. I got to believe he regrets saying that. I don't think he ever misspeaks very often. He has to regret saying it. There's a lot of things he could have said. You know, we thought this play would work. And, I've read some of the so-called experts out there saying, the hope is you get a couple of the linemen out there in front of them. You get Najee with a head of steam and you have a chance. You could have said anything other than to say we didn't have a play. That just makes him sound so stupid. And it just such a.
Isn't it an indictment of Canada by him?
Both of them, yeah. But I mean, Tomlin's the head coach. I'm not going to put this all on Canada. They're on the sideline during a timeout. If Canada calls that play, Tomlin certainly has the right to say, that's ridiculous.
Of course. I'm not putting it all on Canada. He is. He's telling the world we ran out of plays in our playbook.
Just awful.
Which makes you wonder what this playbook is then, if that's the case. I mean, you have to have play. And the picket fence thing, I don't know, was really true either. Chris Hoke
Ben
said,
used that same phrase.
Yeah, but Hoke said that wasn't the case. You have him on the show here once in a while, don't you? Ask him what he's saying. He thinks that they were expecting a blitz, and Ben was going to react to the blitz, which I don't know. They fake blitz and then drop back. So whatever the case.
So he's going to go 16. Like I said, even if you're completely fooled, even if you're completely fooled, you're not scoring a touchdown.
You're not scoring a touchdown. The only hope is throwing in the end zone. One of two things can happen.
Why not try for Claypool in the end zone?
Or Freiermuth.
And you might get a pass interference call, too.
Yeah, exactly. You might get a pass interference call.
It was the only play. You don't have to know.
Your chances of succeeding are probably not very good, but they have to be a hell of a lot better than on a flare
Better
pass.
than zero.
You needed
Yeah.
17 yards from where he caught the ball. That's what we talked about, just like you said. 17 yards with no blockers in front of him. There were 4 white shirts and him. And he had to go 17 yards
First of all,
on a 4th and 10 play.
First of all, nobody in football, you don't have to be a football expert to break this thing down. Nobody in the history of the game has a play for 4th and 10 from the 11. Nobody in history has a play that's perfect for that situation. It's a desperation, emergency situation. There's no X's and O's. Either throw it up to the end zone for one of your big guys to try and catch it, or, well, that's pretty much it. Or you get a lucky scramble or something like that. It's too short of a space to go 17 yards with a screen pass. There is no play there.
Right.
There's no play for Bill Walsh. There's no play for Sid Luckman. There's no play in history for 4th and 10 from the 11.
I thought the only thing worse than that play was Tomlin's explanation. That was even worse than the play itself.
That one's going to live with him for a while. And
that's what I mean. He's got to regret saying that. He just has to.
We had fired all of our bullets. First of all, from a play calling juncture, did he say? First of all, is there a law against running a play twice? Like, let's say theoretically they had a really good play down there. Well, run it again.
Absolutely. Throw it in the end zone and hope for the best.
Can you think of a more ridiculous play, either one of you, from Steelers history? Recent Steelers history. I'm trying to think. There was the Ben. I was trying to think this morning. There was the Ben bootleg in the Jacksonville playoff game. Remember that? Late in the game.
I don't remember.
Late in the game, in a 4th down situation, they called Ben's number, and he tried to run for a 1st down and got tackled. Tomlin's first year. Anything come to mind for you guys?
Well, that's way back. I was thinking of the Jacksonville.
So was I.
Previous one a couple
Oh,
years
I'm sorry.
ago.
Yeah, no, this was way back.
Okay.
Tomlin's first year. I thought of Landry Jones to Al Villanueva on a fake field goal in Seattle. I thought of that play. Can either one of you think of one?
I would have had
The
less
Seattle
problem.
play, now that you mentioned
I would
it,
have had less problem with that throwing it to Al than I did yesterday.
Throwing it to Al. From Landry Jones to Al. Do I need to tell you that play didn't work in Seattle?
Yeah, but Al had a touchdown catch in
I know,
one game.
he did. I'm thinking of ridiculous plays from Steelers history. Anybody
Those-
top it?
those
Can
were
anybody top it?
World-class calls compared to yesterday.
I mean, I got to jog my memory about some of these things because, to ask that question right here, I can't remember specifics.
I can't
I
either.
got to
It
look
just
back
was-
at notes.
It was very comparable, I thought, to the Buffalo 4th and 1. Like you said, it just made no sense. That wasn't a Steeler call. That was a Buffalo call.
Right. One of the worst plays I've ever seen. And that explanation, is he throwing his offensive coordinator under the bus there, Bob?
Well, if he is, 3 games into his his tenure as offensive coordinator. Here's the thing you can talk about too.
Is he? Do you think he is?
No,
there?
no.
You don't think people look at that and say, "Wait,
well,
Matt
they may
Canada
look at
didn't
it, but
have a play?"
I don't think it was his intention to do that. If that's what you're asking.
I didn't ask you that. I said, did he throw his play caller under the bus when he told the world we ran out of plays?
I mean, I don't know. I again, my thing is intent. He didn't.
I
mean
just
it
think
that
he
way.
misspoke.
I
and
think so,
to me,
too.
it's every bit as of indictment on him as it is on his offensive coordinator.
But I thought this was
if I
a
have
point.
an offensive coordinator who runs out of plays during a game, that's slightly problematic. So whether he intended to or not, this is going to get connected to Matt. I can't help but think of Matt Canada. You're talking about play calls. That's
exactly.
his playbook.
No, I get it, but ultimately the head coach too is the last. He has to approve these things one way or the other. He has to know what's going on. If he's doing that, then he's also indicting himself.
Absolutely.
Because
yes,
he's the guy in
absolutely.
charge of it. So I think it was more a case of him he used that expression, but I don't think he meant it the way it came out. So to me, that's
Came
more
out
of a.
awfully bad.
It did. But
Does Matt Canada last the season? Ravens won a Super Bowl one year when they fired
Yes.
their offensive coordinator.
we talked about this last night. Andrew had a good point too about how Steelers go about replacing assistants.
They
And
promote from
they
within.
promote from within. And again, you can say Sean Surratt was the guy last year. Adrian Clem was underneath. They promote from within. Matt Canada, Randy Fichtner. So
Todd Haley wasn't.
what are you
wasn't
really
a promote-
doing, though?
wasn't
I
a
understand
promote
that.
from within.
But that's my point. Do they not go out and look hard enough for assistants and are willing to pay them what the market is
That's
on
fair.
assistant coaches?
That's absolutely fair.
So, I mean, if
maybe, but how do you explain Todd Haley then? He was here for several years, and they went
No,
out and got him.
Listen, I understand there are successes from it. I'm just saying that I think it was pretty much fait accompli when Randy Fichtner was let go that Matt Canada was going to get the job. And my question would be, did they go out and look around for other possible options? Same thing with offensive line coach.
And you think it's a money issue?
I don't know.
And Fichtner was promoted from the staff, too.
I understand. They do that. That's their habit, and they've had success with it. But they also can have failure with it, too. So.
Well, Todd Haley was the outlier on that.
And he was here for, 7 years?
Long
what
time.
would you have done if you fire Sean Surratt?
Go out and look for a line coach.
Do we know that they did or didn't? I don't know.
Well, he brought Munchak in from the outside, too. That was a pretty high
That was a good hire.
hire.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm not sure
but guess
agree
what?
with,
They got the
with,
results. They got the results. My point is, go outside and get the best
I talked
candidate.
to Tomlin in January about the lack of black head coaches, and I said, Mike, you've never hired an offensive or defensive coordinator who's black. And he goes, no, our philosophy is to promote from within. He mentioned a couple. What was the guy, the running backs coach that was in the fire? He was in line.
Oh yeah,
Kirby Smart.
Kirby Wilson.
Kirby
Wilson, yeah.
Kirby Smart, I think, is at Georgia, right?
Yeah.
I think he was in line to be promoted. He mentioned somebody else who left, but he goes, our philosophy is to promote from within if we can.
Unless they hire Mike Munchak or Todd Haley. So that's Bob's point. I mean, why not?
He said when we can, I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule. There are exceptions.
I would call those two major ones, but that sort of underscores the point that they've had their best success not hiring from within. Is that your point?
Yes. I mean, the point is you try to get the best people in that position, and just because someone's on your staff and you elevate them, and listen, I'm a big fan of that if the guy, but I think you also owe it to yourself to look around and try to go out and get the best. And I don't know if that's a problem or not.
I mean, I don't know.
All of this becomes issues.
I don't know anything about Adrian Clem. I mean, I read the reviews. Okay, the offensive linemen are going to say great things. A guy like Ramon Foster, who's out of it, said this guy's going to be wonderful. He's just what they need. He has nothing to gain by saying that. If Chooks said he's a great coach and he's going to make it better, he has something to gain from it. I mean, everybody raved about Clem, not so much about Canada that I can remember.
I mean, but couldn't you bring in Mike Munchak, Vince Lombardi, and Russ Grimm to coach this offensive line? Are they going to coach up Dan Moore?
I don't think
Are they going to coach up Chooks Okorafor?
First of all, a guy like Moore and Green are still so raw. I'm willing to give them time, and I think they know that. But the point is, how much of this is on coaching versus the actual player? We don't know that.
No, my point is, who in history would be doing a better – who in history could coax a top-rate performance or even a mediocre performance out of the five guys they have now?
Again, Mike Munchak was here, probably would have, based on how he handled
Mike Munchak had Marquise Pouncey, David DeCastro.
I understand them. I understand. They were high-end picks. They don't have that here. So that's why I'm saying patience is the only way you can figure this out in time.
Does this translate then to the coordinator? Is there a coordinator out there that could do better with what he has to work with?
Well, that's a better question. Maybe not. Maybe, and that was going to be my next question. Who? Horse? Horse thinks he could do a better job, Ron.
Well, he's undefeated as a coach, isn't he?
So is everybody absolved from blame because the line stinks?
I'm trying to say, where should you point it most?
I know. Yeah. I'm just asking a question here. Coming up, is Canada absolved? Is Adrian Clem, the quarterback, everybody else, because the line stinks? And whose fault is it that the line stinks? The GM?
Could be. I mean, it goes all the way up there.
That's where I would go first. All right. Things getting a little heated. It's hot on here today, Bob, isn't it?
This is hot in the kitchen.
The Steelers played with this kind of passion, they'd be 3-0.